Billy, another flight up. Hey, folks, if we can start to gather over here on the stairs. Sign holders.
Still working on it.
I love you so much, Sue McKinnon. I love you.
I know.
We're going to gather this direction. Everybody move this way. You can take another step up. Some of you. Charles, go up to the next level. And slightly that way. We can take TJ and y'all can go slightly behind. There we go. Charles, 5 feet that way. There we go. Hello, hello. Yep. There we are. Do you have your mic stand? You can drop it. We'll be speaking right here.
Hey, what's up?
Perfect.
Yeah. One in Birmingham.
Is that all right? Some of us are shorter. Everybody in front and back, row, take another step up. And we are live. So what do we want? No death penalty. When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
No death penalty.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
No death penalty.
When do we want it?
Now.
All right. Charles, go up next to Billy. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming. Thanks to everybody that's watching online. My name is Abe Bonowitz with Death Penalty Action. We're here with Amnesty International, USA, and worldwide. and Project Hope to abolish the death penalty, and lots of other folks, including folks from the United Methodist Church and the Unitarian Universalist Church and the Catholic Church and L'Chaim, Jews Against the Death Penalty, and many other in a broad coalition of national and Alabama organizations to say that we do not need executions to be safe from people who've done awful crimes or to hold them accountable. And this is just another one of those cases, Carey Grayson, where it's unnecessary, he's not hurting anybody in prison, and we can be safe without executions, and we should not be carrying out torturous executions. But we're going to hear from a number of people, and I want to start with Esther Brown, who's the coordinator for Project Hope to abolish the death penalty. Esther?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. I agree with the governor that all life is sacred. But my question is, where were you when a little boy loses his mother and is left all alone? Where were you when he was bipolar? Where were you? You weren't there. So don't tell me that you believe that all life is sacred. And if you really believed it, you wouldn't be killing people the way you are and torturing them before they die. I would have thought that we are a little bit more advanced. And this prides itself in being a Christian state. Well, it has very little to do with Christianity. He who among you is without sin should cast the first stone. Oh yeah, and there are quite a few those. So I want you to continue to speak up, to be present, and to represent those that I represent, who are the ones on death row. We are the only death row organization in the country that was founded on death row and is run from death row. My board, my chairman are on death row. I'm the one out on the outside. We thank you for all you do, and please keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Now I'd like to introduce one of the attorneys on the legal team for Carey Grayson, Eric Brown.
I represent Carey Grayson from the Federal Public Defender Office, and I'm here to speak about his efforts to challenge the state's execution known as nitrogen hypoxia. So, the state is endeavoring to carry out the third ever nitrogen hypoxia execution this Thursday against Carey Grayson. This is a novel method of execution that has absolutely no historical precedent, and it involves filling a person's respiratory system with nitrogen gas until they fall unconscious and eventually die due to lack of oxygen. It's been carried out 2 times so far this year, and the first effort to do this was against Kenny Smith in January of this year. And before Mr. Smith's execution, the state promised that he would fall unconscious within a matter of seconds after the nitrogen gas began flowing. That was not the result. Witnesses to his execution observed that he remained conscious for minutes, and during that period of time, he struggled like a fish out of water. His autopsy report, which is publicly available, showed that Mr. Smith's lungs were almost twice the normal weight at the time of his death because they were filled with blood, and this is known as pulmonary edema. Carey Grayson has challenged the state's protocol using this method, arguing that it amounts to conscious suffocation, and he's raised a complaint in the district court. And his complaint has survived a motion to dismiss, meaning that he stated a potentially legitimate claim under the Constitution. The problem is that he filed a preliminary injunction motion to bar the state from carrying out the execution so that he can take his legitimate claims to trial and vindicate them. But the standard for a preliminary injunction is more onerous than a motion to dismiss. And so the district court, while it denied the state's motion to dismiss his claims, also denied his preliminary injunction, meaning that even though Carey has stated potentially valid claims, if the state is able to go forward on Thursday and execute him, it will end his lawsuit. And it won't be because the state has disproven his claims that this is conscious suffocation. It will be because he failed to meet the onerous standard for a preliminary injunction motion. And so currently, Carey has an appeal pending at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, challenging the district court's denial of his preliminary injunction. And that is currently pending, and as soon as the result comes in, it will be appealed to the Supreme Court, or it will result in a stay of the execution. And it's worth pointing out that this is the same procedural situation that happened in Kenny Smith's case. He had filed a civil complaint, it passed a motion to dismiss, but he failed to get the preliminary injunction. And so even though he had a potentially valid claim, he was still executed, and that execution mooted the lawsuit. And that is what the state of Alabama is endeavoring to do on Thursday with Carey Grayson. And so I deeply appreciate everyone's coming out today, and I know that Mr. Grayson appreciates it as well. Thank you all very much.
What do we say to the gas chamber?
No!
No gas chamber. No gas chamber. Now we have Miriam Bankston, who's an investigator with the Federal Defender Office, to bring a message from Carey.
Good afternoon. My name is Miriam Bankston, and I'm the investigator on Mr. Grayson's case. And what that means is I've had the opportunity and the honor to get to know Mr. Grayson for the past few years. Mr. Grayson is an incredibly talented artist, and several times has allowed his artwork to be used to raise funds for Alabama Post-Conviction Relief Project. And in doing that, along with sharing his art, he wanted to make sure that we shared a message. This message is from Carey. I give thanks for my life, however little I have left. I give thanks for the attorneys that worked so hard to give me that life for however long they managed. I give thanks to my brothers and friends who kept me sane while I walked the edge of this life. And lastly, I give thanks for all of you and those like you who support us and hope for the day that we may all wake without fear for our lives. Thank you.
TJ. Amnesty International USA has been running a campaign to highlight this case, and here is TJ Riggs, who's the state coordinator for Amnesty International USA. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Abe. As you said, my name is TJ Riggs. I am the Alabama State Death Penalty Abolition Coordinator for Amnesty International, and I'm here to represent the millions of Amnesty members from around the world in calling for a halt to this execution. This is now the third time that we've been on these very steps protesting against the use of the nitrogen hypoxia protocol. The first time in January with Kenny Smith, we told the state it was going to be torturous. We told the state that veterinarians refused to use this protocol for animal anesthesia because of its cruelty. And they told us we were wrong. And then what did we see? Kenny Smith spent 6 minutes writhing on the gurney before losing consciousness and lived for a full 22 minutes before the gas stopped. The state then told us that it was Kenny Smith's fault, that he held his breath, that he wasn't giving into the protocol. And they tried it again. And what did we see? The exact same thing happened again, a nearly identical timeline. It is not a coincidence. It's not due to the fault of those being executed. There is an absolute error in this protocol. It is torturous. It should not be allowed to happen in a civil society. And where is the humanity? Thank you.
Anybody else like to say anything? Dawson Hicks is here with Project Hope to abolish the death penalty.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. As we're here and as we struggle for not only total abolition, but just to save one life today, I want you to keep in mind of everything you've heard, of the torture, the conditions that people are left in after being what the state of Alabama will call fairly punished. What I want you to remember is that this struggle is not one that sits on its own, but is connected to so many others. We are struggling against not just a status quo, but a violent one that demands that you be suffocated and be choked to death, one that demands that you not have your material conditions provided, and yet when crime happens, it is completely your fault. It is a moral failing, when in reality we know that alleviating poverty, alleviating the conditions that lead to crime is how you stop crime. Deterrence does not work. It never has, and it won't work again. So what I want you to just remember is, as you engage in struggle, any struggle, remember that there are real people whose lives are on the line, and they are actively being tortured by the state of Alabama and any other institution that upholds this type of punishment, this type of cruelty, and this type of barbarism. So please engage, get involved, get out into the streets, and make your voice heard, because the political process only works when you engage with it.
Thank you. Reverend Lynn is here, the Unitarian Universalist Association.
My name is Lynn Hopkins. It is my great honor to serve the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Montgomery. And I appreciate Esther calling up the words of Kay Ivey that all lives are sacred. As Unitarian Universalists, we actually believe and practice that. Our first principle is to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The divine worth of a human being is not removed by crime, by wrongdoing, and it cannot be denied by the justice system. The image of God cannot be erased from a human life by order of the court. We gain nothing with this death. We do not prevent crime. We do not restore anything to the lives of the victim's family members. We do not offer anything to our society. We bring only one thing, and that is another grieving family. And on this day, God knows we have enough of those.
Amen. So earlier this week, we saw from the Gallup organization new polling on public opinion about the death penalty. And it shows again an ongoing trend of lesser support for the death penalty, especially the younger you get. The younger you get, the less likely you are. And what we've also seen, a new analysis of that from the Death Penalty Policy Project. You can contact Rob Dunham about this, but this morning he sent out his analysis that basically proves, based on the numbers of more than 16, that the public executions, law enforcement, is safer in states that do not have the death penalty than they are in states that do. And the public, and especially law enforcement, is somewhat less safe, but still safer in states that have the death penalty but don't use it. And where the death penalty does nothing to keep law enforcement or the public safe is in states that have the death penalty and do use it. And the numbers bear this out. Look for the report from the Death Penalty Policy Project. Contact Rob Dunham to hear more about that. But at the end of the day, what we know is we don't need executions to keep people who have done horrible crimes safe from the public or to hold them accountable. What we also know is that where the death penalty has been repealed, the states can do better for victim families. We remember the victims, but not with more killing. Today, we're about to deliver 3 petitions, plus the Amnesty International action letters, and actions, tens of thousands of signatures to Governor Ivey. One, of course, asking that she halt the execution of Carey Grayson. One of the petitions is to call for a halt to the use of gas suffocation in executions. And a third is our Pull Back the Curtains campaign here in Alabama, which comes about after Joe James Jr. was poked and prodded for several hours, and they only brought the media in and opened the curtains after he was already unconscious. They had already started the execution. And we demand that if we're going to have executions in Alabama, that the public witnesses, all of the witnesses, including the media, should see the process from the time that the prisoner walks or is rolled in his or her wheelchair into the death chamber, and they should be witness to the entire process of hooking the person up to whatever mechanism is being used to kill them, all the way through the process. So we'll be delivering those 3 petitions. I also want to take a moment to encourage everybody to get involved. Go to deathpenalty.action.org and get involved in our appeal to President Biden to commute all of the federal and military death sentences, all of the people on federal death row, all of the people on the military death row, before he leaves office. Because if he does not, then we know Donald Trump is just waiting to continue his fixation, his obsession, his personal desire for the power to carry out executions. He's already said he will do this. He wants to expand the death penalty, and we're calling on the president to live up to his own morals and commute all of the death sentences on federal and military death rows. So that's at deathpenaltyaction.org. And finally, we have something new that everybody gets to participate in. Some of these children that are walking by already did. Earlier, we were able to speak with them. And that's over here, the Delaware Bell, which I'll show you. I'm going to move our camera a little bit. I want to invite everybody to come down a little bit. You guys come down a level. Go ahead. Esther wants to add something.
I just want to say something. I just had a call from my chairman who is on death row. Unfortunately, I wasn't quick enough to be able to pick it up. But so he and all of them send greetings and thank you. I talk to him every day. I just want him to be part of it. Thank you.
That's true. So this bell here comes from Delaware citizens opposed to the death penalty. Delaware had 16 executions between the resumption of executions in that state and 2012. And then the courts threw out Delaware death penalty statute. And this year, on June 30th, the legislature in Delaware passed legislation to scrub the death penalty from the Delaware statute. And then in September, the governor of Delaware signed that legislation. So Delaware no longer has the death penalty. They no longer need this bell, which was tolled outside of many of the executions there in Delaware. So they gave the bell to Death Penalty Action to use with our For Whom the Bell is Tolled campaign. And this is actually the first time that we're able to use it in front of an execution. That'll be on Thursday. Yesterday, we were at a rally in Indianapolis where Indiana may become the third state this year after South Carolina and Utah to resume executions after more than a decade without them. That date is scheduled for December, I think it's the 18th. And we were outside the Capitol in Indianapolis, and people told this bell, and that's what we're going to do here. They've abolished the death penalty in Delaware, and this bell is to ring out in protest against the death penalty and call for its abolition across the country. So with that, I want to invite a brother here. Just grab the rope here, and everybody give it a couple of tolls. Doesn't need a long thing. You just get in line and somebody go up and replace them up there. Charles, if you want to add any thoughts while you do that.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Charles Keith.
That's not amplification.
It's not. I can speak. My name's Charles Keith. I'm the Impacted Communities Liaison for Death Penalty Action. When we went to Delaware to pick this bell up, I'd never seen it. I didn't know its history. And then they started telling us about that bell, and I fell in love with it. It made me feel like it was an abolitionist just like me. And I told them this is great for our props. We can show people. Sometimes people walk away, they forget what you say, but they'll never forget the sound of this bell. So we made sure that we had to modify it so we'd be able to travel with it. And as we were able to bring it to Alabama, we stopped in at Indianapolis, and we're going to continue to show this bell. We want these people to hear this bell. We don't want you to forget anything about it. When it rings, it's going to mean something. As you'll notice, you don't hear too many bells ringing anymore, but you're definitely going to hear this bell. This is it. So getting into that history of this, traveling with it, it's actually empowered me. You know, sometimes when I come here and I see all you, I become empowered. But now we all can become part of this bell, and this bell has now become a part of us, not just Delaware anymore. Thank you.
Everyone, we're going to gather up and walk our petitions into the Capitol in just a moment or two.
Let's get Billy to ring this.
What's that?
Come on, Billy.
Come on, Billy.
Come on, Billy. This is the guy that modified to make this bell so that we could transport it.